It's another roadshow edition of Soccer Down here. We're taking your questions about Atlanta United and LAFC tonight from the Bank of California Stadium. Jason Longshore and Mike Conti are here with you at the Fields, LA, which is right next to the Bank of California Stadium. Getting ready for tonight's broadcast. For those of you who will be listening to us on the radio, our pregame coverage starts at 9:30 Eastern Time. Kickoff will be just after 10. We've not seen an updated sheet to know an exact time yet. It is a national TV broadcast on ESPN. Could be a little bit later than 10 o'clock. We'll wait and find out what the actual kick time is. But we will have a full hour of postgame coverage on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on Atlanta United's app, on anything else?
Radio.com.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Yeah. All the apps, all the stuff.
It is on Sirius XM, but it's not.
But not
our
post game, right?
No, it's not our
yeah,
feed.
right.
It's not our feed.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Dave Denholm will have you taken care of over
and
there.
He's good too.
He's great. He's great. All right, we're going to answer your questions, so you can tweet them at us at Longshoe, at MikeConti929, at Soccer Down here about the match. I think we've got a couple to kick us off.
Sure, yeah. I mean, let's start with Chris Hutchinson, and he asks, is Barco ready for more than 30 minutes of high-intensity play tonight?
That's a big ask. That's a big ask in a game like this because, you know, we talked about it on stoppage time, how much of a challenge it's going to be tonight. That's hard to come straight back into it when you've had one game since the U20 World Cup concluded, and you've been injured since, and you haven't been really involved in high-intensity training up until very recently because of the injury. I think it would be a stretch, and I'd be a little bit worried about how far he could go into it.
This is one where I kind of like the idea of Barco coming off the bench, see how this match unfolds, and then when you're at the hour mark, you know, can Barco give you something instantly in the form of an attack option off the bench? I think you're going to want to... It's so weird with this match, Jason, because you have, I think, a couple different philosophies you can take if you're Frank de Boer, and none of them are necessarily wrong.
Nope.
It's a road match against a really, really good team. That makes you think that maybe you want to come in, play conservatively, maybe play a little bit more defensively oriented, safe with the selection. On the other hand, you have absolutely nothing to lose here tonight. You know, if you lose, it's a road loss in the West. No big deal. Doesn't hurt you at all in terms of winning the Eastern Conference Championship in the regular season. So then maybe you can be a lot more attack-oriented, be very aggressive with your selection, and try to, make LAFC answer some questions, which is something they haven't had to do much this year. If you defer more towards the former, I'd say you don't need to play Barco more than 30 minutes tonight. If you kind of lean more towards the latter, then yeah, I mean, I think you got to really consider starting Barco tonight, but I'm afraid to do it. And I think the other element, too, is conditions. It's not humid, but it is hot out here.
Right.
Very hot. I mean, there's a reason why we're doing the show inside and not outside right now, because it's well into the 90s out here. There's a heat advisory. It's not that humid. I mean, it doesn't feel like Atlanta in August or anything. It'll be mostly comfortable at match time, but as long as the sun is still up, it's going to be hot out there. And I think you've got to be really, really careful to not push Barco too firmly back into a role that he's not ready for yet, because the last thing you want is for him to aggravate an injury, and then you're back at square one as you creep ever closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd love for him to be ready to start in the Open Cup semifinal against Orlando, even if it's a couple appearances off the bench and between now and then. I'm okay with that. The other thing that makes it a little complicated is the adductor strain from Brandon Vasquez. It happened in training. That definitely makes you wonder what the lineup could look like tonight. You would assume Pity Martinez slides back into the lineup for him. That would be the obvious move because Tito Villalba's not available. So if you're going to bring Pity there, then who is your big impact attacking sub off the bench? Could be Ezequiel Barco. And you do want those opportunities because of how this game could go.
And I guess part of that, too, could be dictated by, it's a buzzword these days, formation. Because the formation is very fluid.
Yep.
But if you come into this match with the idea that you're going to play 4-3-3, for example, then, yeah, maybe it makes a little bit more sense to start Barco in that formation. If you want to play 3-5-2, I don't know where you find a home for Barco right now, unless it's as the central attacking midfielder. And that's asking him to do a lot of work.
Yep.
And his fitness is still maybe not quite there for 90 minutes yet. So my gut tells me we're going to see Barco tonight at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see him initially, but if he's in the 18, I think this is a match where, unless, God willing, you're up 2 or 3-0. Even
then, I think you could see him, because I think what you'll do, almost regardless of the situation, and this is assuming Vasquez is either unavailable or very limited availability.
Right.
I think you're basically coming in with 90 minutes to split between Pitti and Barco. And you tell Pitti, look, I don't need you to finish this. I need 60 good minutes out of you. I need 70 good minutes out of you. Barco's then going to come in and finish it. I'm okay with that split.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is a lead of any size is not safe against LAFC.
Nope.
Especially on the road.
Nope.
So if you are up 2 or 3-0 late, you still have to do work to see the match out. So I tend to... I don't know anything. We haven't been told anything. I tend to think that Vasquez is probably not going to be able to go tonight. I know he did travel.
I'd be shocked if he started.
Yeah.
I'd be absolutely blown away if he started. The question will be, is he available and how much does he have if he is?
Adductors are really, really tricky.
Yeah.
And we saw that with Darlington Nagbe last year. They are really, really tricky. Here again, I think you have to look at big picture.
Yeah, without Tito right now, you don't have another forward option, another true forward option.
100%. But you also have to look at it as this is a road match against the Western Conference team. Then you play a home match against Galaxy. You're in the semifinals of the Open Cup 3 days after that.
Quick turnaround.
And then you have another home game against New York City. To me, you got to be... You don't want to ignore what you could possibly accomplish tonight, but those are more important matches, in my opinion, than what you have tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's and some of it is down to the national broadcast and some of the things that have been said. To say that this game there's more pressure on Atlanta United is ludicrous to me, because you're talking about a team in LAFC who has only had one game at home that they didn't pick up maximum points, and that was a draw. Mm-hmm. They've not lost here. They're the only team left in the league that hasn't lost at home. So you're going to say that a team coming across the country in this game, they're the ones with the pressure on them. I think it's the complete opposite. I think it is a game where Atlanta United can come in, and if they win, it's a huge win, obviously. If they draw, it's a huge draw.
Yep.
If they lose, depending on how it goes, you're fine.
Yeah.
You can pick up so many different things from this. This feels like an even better situation than Tata Martino took his team into Red Bull Arena last year, where we're going to play our game, and that's been the talk all week, is we're going to play our game. Mm-hmm. That match, it was the same. We're going to play our game, we're going to play through their press, we're going to deal with it, and we're going to see what happens. Well, you learned that maybe you can't play through that press, so you're going to have to do something different. You did in the postseason. You're getting this in July instead of at the end of September, and you have a lot of games left to figure out how you're going to deal with the press. And LAFC's press is not the same as the Red Bulls, but the concepts are the same.
Right.
They want to break up your building out of the back. It sounds like Atlanta's going to play to build out of the back. That's been the talk all week. So I don't think you have anything to lose here. I think you only have things you can learn and or points you can gain.
Yeah, 100%. If you win tonight, it's the biggest regular season win in club history. Again, as long as you don't get embarrassed, nothing changes, in my opinion, about the way that Atlanta United is perceived, both locally and nationally.
It shouldn't, anyway.
I don't think it does, unless you get embarrassed again.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, I felt that way after the Seattle match.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people did not agree with us on that. That they felt like that was an indictment of Atlanta United, that it was a quote-unquote boring game, which I totally disagree with. I thought that was a really well-played match between two very good teams, with Atlanta United on the road in a place where it's almost impossible to win. I know Portland did it last week, but it's almost impossible to win there. Same thing tonight. You have two really good teams in a building where it's almost impossible for the road team to come in and win. LAFC, if we're talking about pressure, they didn't play well against their rivals last week. Don't let that scoreline fool you. There was a very late second goal to make it 3-2. They got outplayed by their rivals again. And their rivals have been a big problem for them, really. Mm-hmm. Who's got more to prove then? Is it the team that supposedly is running away to the Supporters' Shield but may not have that signature win this year then? Or is it a team that's going along the road in the stretch of some incredible match compression and injuries, and yet in the face of all of that, they're still winning, staying in the top three in the East? They're second right now and go to first with a win tonight if it happens, and they're 2 wins away from a major trophy. Pressure's on LAFC, in my opinion.
I said it in the full-time report after the DC match. I've said it in different ways this week. I really do feel like the media and some local, a lot of national, just does not give Atlanta United the proper respect for being a champion.
Yeah.
Because when you're a champion, you should get a little bit of slack first off, and you should have that belief that it's going to come good. And there's been nothing this season to say it's not going to come good. Have there been some bad results? Sure, that happens. This is the best a defending champion has done up to this point in Major League Soccer in the last decade.
Yeah, and aside from an outlier match in Chicago, you haven't been outplayed by anyone this year.
It's very tough to do what Atlanta United's doing, and it feels like nobody's given them that credit, that they're almost doing it by accident. This is a game where LAFC should win. This is a game where they should have more chances. This is a game where they should have more shots. They're at home. They should win. To say the pressure's on the other side is crazy to me.
Okay, Nathan Pugh wants us to talk about Inter Miami, which we will in a moment.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
But I want to get to P. Cox's question. He asked, what are some of the Atlanta United keys tonight? Is it control Vela or handle the press?
Handle the press, first off, for me. It's even more important than controlling Vela, because I think they kind of go hand in hand, but it's got to be handling the press. And if you're going to play through it, I think that's where players like Nagbe, Heineman, Remedi are key. And when you look at Darlington Nagbe, he has the best passing accuracy in Major League Soccer up to this point. Remedi's 8th, which surprised me a little bit. Heineman doesn't have a lot of appearances, but he's that type of player as well. You have to rely on them to get you through the press, because you want to be able to play centrally into that. But when you look at LAFC and the way they press, it's kind of unique, because Vela's not really the spear of the pressing side. He wants to drop off and recover things that happen because of the press. It's going to be guys like Latif Blessing, Mark Anthony Kaye, who cover so much of that ground in the midfield and jump into those passing lanes and cause those turnovers. That's where Nagbe, Heineman, Remedi have to be on point tonight. We've seen very rarely, but maybe 2-3 times this season, Darlington Nagbe have a bad turnover in his own half. You have those, Carlos Vela will kill you. You can't have those moments tonight. It's hard to man-mark a guy like Vela. It can be done, but then you're sacrificing a player to do it. I don't think Atlanta United wants to play that way. You have to know where he pops up, who is accounting for him. I really feel like Franco Escobar will be a very key player in that. Whatever role Escobar is in, I think he's going to be the one who can run with Vela, the one who's a good enough tackler to deal with Vela. I think he's going to be the key figure in kind of limiting Vela's effectiveness.
But isn't it also true that you don't want to get into 1v1s against Vela?
You don't want to get into 1v1s with him or Rossi. I think both of them are dangerous in 1v1 situations. But then that goes back to the flip side. Atlanta wants to play their game. They want to build up out of the back. You will have turnovers. It will happen. And those 1v1s will be created. So you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to limit that, because LAFC, look, they're not a team that builds up a ton of possession. They're not a team that wants to build out of the back and do all these things. They want to play in your half, and that's it. They're going to find some 1v1s occasionally when they create those turnovers, and you have to win them. And whether it's Escobar, whether it's Robinson, whether it's Gonzalez Perez, I think Robinson will probably have a lot to do with Adama Diomande tonight. Rossi is the one that you're probably putting the least amount of focus on, but another one who can really hurt you.
Right.
And you're going to have somebody who can run with him, with his speed. And then Blessing and Kaye are two guys in the midfield who can step up into those lanes and hurt you as well. And if Bob Bradley, throws a curveball at you and starts Lee Wynn, then you're talking about a really good playmaker who creates a ton of chances.
Okay, let's get to Nathan Pugh's question about Inter Miami. He asks, are Matias Pellegrini and Julian Carranza any good? He has never heard of them. Is Inter Miami going to be like an Atlanta LAFC type of team, or turn out more to be a Cincinnati, Minnesota, Orlando once their first season finishes?
Definitely not the latter. I think they're going to be a team, at least in intent and the way they build the team, like Atlanta and LAFC. And these two guys fit into that. You're talking about two guys in the mold of a Diego Rossi, in the mold of an Ezequiel Barco, of a Tito Villalba, Miguel Almiron. They're two 19-year-old players. Pellegrini looks like that deal is going to be around $10 million. That should tell you all you need to know. Carranza from Bonfield, that's the club that Eric Remedi has come from, a club that is known for developing top young talent. So what's happening now is you're seeing, with LAFC linked to another young Uruguayan as well, you're seeing MLS clubs look at what Atlanta did with Miguel Almiron and say, we can do that and get the benefit on the field, but also get the benefit in the bank account afterwards. And it's obvious where the market is right now.
Right.
It's Argentina, it's Uruguay, it's those leagues. I think Paraguay fits into it. That's where you can get the most bang for your buck and you have the greatest resale value. Miami's going to do that, but I think they're going to add a big name on top of that.
Sure. They have to, almost.
I think you have to in Miami.
Yeah. Miami is a big star town, and they have to do that to gain some credibility and get noticed. The one thing to keep in mind about Miami is that Paul McDonough is building this team right now. He was one of the team builders for Atlanta United. Where did he go to find Miguel Almiron and Tito Villalba? He went to South America. That's where they're going to be making that's where they're going to be finding the foundation, the building blocks, if you will. But to your point, they're going to make a splash signing.
It'll be more like LAFC, I think, in that regard, because of a guy like Vela. Like, Atlanta didn't have to go to that type of player because of the way the club was developing. You could go to Miguel, to Joseph, to Tito, guys that you hadn't really heard of, but guys who were talented and guys that had that value. LA needed to combine a Rossi with a Vela. I think Miami will have to do the same. Pellegrini, Carranza with a Luis Suarez or something like that.
All right, we'll continue to take your questions. Tweet us at Soccer Down Here, obviously. And I understand what Miami did is big news, but this is one of the feature matches of the year in MLS, and we're here in LA, so let's talk more about that, shall we? So,
yes.
Where do you think this would rank if Atlanta United gets any kind of result tonight? I mean, we talked about this on SDH a little bit on Wednesday, and we talked about it on Stoppage Time. I know some people they kind of cringe at the phrase signature win, but what is Atlanta United's signature win in the regular season, their first 3 years of existence? I would argue their biggest wins in the regular season may have come in 2017. Like if
NYC and Orlando.
Right. If you look back at last year, probably their biggest win as far as quality of opponent defeated would have, I think, been Columbus on the road. That 2-0 win on the road last June.
Yeah, LAFC was a big one early.
It was.
Going out and beating the Galaxy when you did.
And they had Zlatan by that point. Yeah. That's big, too. But, I mean, we're talking about, all right, nice wins.
Yeah, those are good wins.
As far as a make a statement, prove it type of win.
Regular season, you haven't had it against the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
You split with NYC last year. Those are the big ones in the East.
Well, you got 2 draws against NYC.
Yeah, you split in draws,
And then you did have 2 wins against them in the postseason. And I'm not talking about playoffs. I'm talking about regular season wins. And that's why I think this is a really unique opportunity tonight for Atlanta. I mean, I'm not going to go down the road of, needing to rewrite any narratives as I've seen this week. I don't think it's like that.
No, that's nonsense.
I don't think anything changes as far as the perception of this club is concerned if you do not win tonight.
It shouldn't.
Unless you get embarrassed.
Right.
And you don't want that. You don't want to come out here and get smoked.
No.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And I'm curious to see, if Atlanta United were to get an early goal tonight, and you've got a referee who might help you a little bit because he calls the match tight.
He calls a lot.
He calls the match tight. So let's see... some of those plays this year where Pitti has not been able to draw the whistle. He gives you something in the final third, you get a set piece. And you get some early lightning off that. You take an early 1-0 lead. LAFC has not counterpunched this year. We have not really seen them with that counterpunch. They haven't necessarily had to.
Right.
But they are a team that does not deal well with adversity when those moments happen. And I am curious if Atlanta United plays with the mentality of trying to really be aggressive and go forward quickly and early tonight, try to get a quick goal, and then make LAFC do something, because that would get them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, that's the thing that I want to see on the LAFC side, because you talk about Atlanta United signature wins. I don't know what LAFC's are either. And you're talking about two very good teams who have won a lot of games that they should be winning. And Atlanta then took that to another level in the postseason last year, where LAFC lost in the knockout round here last year. So I think both teams have something to prove in that regard, but where this falls in the season, there's a lot to gain. I don't think there's a lot to lose.
Yep.
And that's the unique situation that you have here, even for LAFC. If they lose, and they lose back-to-back, just like they did last year. They lost in El Tráfico and then came to Atlanta and got smoked at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They bounced back and had a good season. Either way, both teams have something to bounce back for and bounce back from, but whoever wins it will get a moment like that. Mm-hmm. And they get a special moment like that either one can really hang their hat on.
Yeah, but I also don't think that from Atlanta United's perspective, they don't really care much about the external chatter.
No, because they got a trophy.
Exactly. And they don't care what national people are saying about them as it pertains to this match. It's just, let's go out and play. And I like what Julian Gressel said on the radio. I think it was Wednesday. We're just going to go out and play free. There is, I think, maybe for one of the few times, a rare time in club history, there is a nothing-to-lose mentality going into this match tonight. And I'm going to be very curious to see what that looks like from the Atlanta United perspective.
Yeah.
Where they can go out and relax and not play with pressure. If you're at home, it's totally different.
Yeah.
I think it's totally different if you're at home.
You're expected to win those.
Exactly.
That's why I think the pressure is on LAFC tonight.
Yes. And I'll be curious to see how LAFC responds to that pressure, too. This is easily their biggest home match of the year. Easily. To this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they will play Galaxy again here, but that hasn't come up yet. This is easily their biggest home match of the year. And I feel like we've had some moments this year where the opposing manager has overthought his selection a little bit. Let's see what Bob Bradley does tonight, and if he overthinks things. I think the one thing that might help Bob Bradley is they aren't very deep.
Right.
So there's only so much you can do to shake up your lineup. They've had more than a week's worth of, exactly a week's worth of rest. They've had more rest than Atlanta United, and they haven't had to travel. So I don't anticipate him to, doing anything crazy tonight, but he could. And I think that would be an early signal of how much they might respect and fear this matchup tonight.
Yeah, Bob Bradley mentioned the thing that he worries about in this match is Joseph Martinez, and you have to, and how they'll deal with that. One thing that was really interesting as I dug into El Tráfico and the way the Galaxy dealt with LAFC's press, they played over the top. They played to Zlatan, who's 6'5", and Zlatan kind of peeled off to the right side to go up against Eddie Segura, who's 5'9". Joseph peeling off to that side makes a lot of sense. Joseph 5'7"-ish, but he's good in the air for his size. You do have a little bit more of an option that way. I think you're not so much looking at the way the Galaxy did it if you do elect to go over the top against the press, and you're going to have to at times. It's going to be more of the diagonals into the corners to open the game up. And with a team like LAFC, who wants to get Jordan Harvey and Steven Beitashour forward to support the attack because they want to play in your half, just like we saw Atlanta and DC last week, when Atlanta would get all 10 players in DC's half, they could get countered.
Yep.
I don't think Atlanta counters in the exact same way. I think they want to look for that long diagonal. Emerson Hyndman can hit it. Eric Remedi can hit it. We know Leandro Gonzalez-Perez can hit it. He's among the best in the league over the last 3 years at completing long passes. For field players, he's right there with goalkeepers who have far more opportunities to connect long passes. LGP's right there. And when you get those opportunities, when you can string together a couple passes, open up some space, and LGP or Hyndman or Remedi hits that diagonal to Joseph running into space where you would normally see an outside back, it's not the same thing the Galaxy did, but it's effective in the same way. And the other thing I think the Galaxy did that Atlanta can and should do tonight is be physical.
Yeah.
Be bullies a little bit. Get stuck into tackles. Get some hits in on people and see how LAFC responds, because they didn't respond well last week.
Right, and that might be what... I know some people are worried about LGP being on the yellow card tightrope. They're going to be yellow cards tonight. You can't worry about that. You just need to go out and play. I wonder then if there's a role for a guy like Jeff Lorenowitz in this match tonight. If there could be a role for Mo Adams in this match tonight. Someone who can get a little bit grimy and give you that physical presence. I'm assuming Remedi will play. He's obviously someone who can give you that as well. Go back to the diagonals for a second. I'd have to look this up on Opta. I feel like Atlanta United, the last couple weeks, really since the Chicago match, their completion rate, in air quotes, on these long diagonals has been very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And I think you really saw it at home against Houston. Yeah, they're playing down a man. That's going to happen. You have the space. But even against DC, it felt like more often than not, those diagonals were being completed with Gressel in stride or with Joseph Martinez in stride and with Brandon Vasquez to a lesser extent. That has been an aspect of Atlanta United that has improved, at least in my judgment, over the last couple of weeks. And if it's going to be key again tonight, I like the way that Atlanta United has been trending.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it will be critical tonight. Lewis Martin asked if we've seen a lot of Atlanta United folks out here, and we have a surprising amount of Atlanta United people out here, whether it's on the plane or whether it's pictures, whether it's gear. There's been a lot of folks out here.
Yeah, I mean, on our flight, probably a couple handfuls?
Yeah, easily.
Santa United's wife, Mrs. Claus, was sitting in my row. We're here in this food hall at LAFC Stadium, and I'm looking around. I'm seeing a couple people in striped kits right now. It's a real testament, by the way. This match was supposed to be played tomorrow, and they moved it. And I know a lot of people made their plans to be here for a match tomorrow night. They had to go through the expense of changing flights and changing their plans. So it's awesome to see so many people out here tonight. Saw a lot of people in Seattle, too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the time of year where school hasn't quite gotten ramped up yet where you can do it, and it's good to see tonight. I think the Atlanta United supporters who do come out here are going to be very pleasantly surprised at this stadium. I mean, it looks beautiful from the outside. I can't wait to go inside, but I think this is going to be a really, really fun atmosphere tonight. It's going to be fun to be part of it. Nathan Pugh, by the way, asks about playing relaxed and how it could potentially help Pitti. He says, big match, big opponent. I hope he really shows up tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a guy like Pitti, and some of this is down to the Argentine player mentality, and I think especially for somebody like Pitti who's coming from the Argentine league specifically, just the way the league is structured and the way things are talked about there from game to game, you do kind of go up and down in importance in games. Like a game for River Plate against, Bonfield or Gimnasia, it's not as big of a deal, and he might even not play that match. But then you have a Copa Libertadores match midweek with a big, Brazilian opponent where he's going to play. Or you have the big Clásicos with Boca Juniors or Independiente that he's going to play. I think for him it's very easy to get up for these big games, and he's comfortable in those moments. And where maybe he's not as comfortable are in those matches against lesser opponents, that it's almost finding that same motivation because you're not really asked to as much for a player like Pitti. And we talked about it over the last week or so. At River, Marcelo Gallardo, who was that kind of player himself, I think he relates to that idea of my skill players, my special players, my difference makers, I need to manage them differently. And he would split the time a lot of times with Juan Fernando Quintero and Pitti. And they wouldn't always play together. Every once in a while they would, but they'd kind of rotate, and certain guys for certain games and certain opponents. So this is a different mentality, I think, in MLS, and you have a different roster size, too, so you have to play more of these games. You just don't have as many people to turn to. So Pitti's having to adjust to that. It's more of a grind. It's a little different. And this right now is actually a really good stretch for him because you get a big game against DC that's important. You get this game that's really important against the league leaders. You get the Galaxy coming to town with Zlatan. That's a big thing. You're going to have an all-star game moment in there, and that'll be really unique for him. He's never experienced anything like that. And then you get an Open Cup semifinal, and you don't have to tell anybody what a semifinal means.
Exactly.
So this is a good stretch of games, I think, even more than just playing freely tonight. This is a good stretch where it feels natural for him because it's big, important matches, and that's where he thrives.
And I think even more important than that, let's go back to a point you made earlier. I think you're spot on. Because you have Barco available now, if they both do not start, you have a very easy ability to make a like-for-like substitution at the hour mark and take Pitti out and put Barco on, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But let's say Pitti is the starter. Okay, don't worry about giving me 90. Go out and give me the
everything
best,
you got.
The best, empty the tank for 60 minutes. Run around like a madman if you want. Go find the game. Do whatever. But give me everything you've got for 60 minutes. You get 60 minutes of that from Pitti Martinez and then 30 minutes of that from Ezequiel Barco. I like where Atlanta United is going into this match tonight.
Yeah, same. I like where Atlanta can be tonight. I think you do have to be smart. You have to be responsible defensively. You have to be responsible with the ball against a team like LAFC when you pass and you're building out of the back. But you have nothing to lose here, and everything to gain. And that's a great situation for a team that I think already has a lot of internal confidence and has kind of gotten its swagger back a little bit. Winning the way they did against DC was very important for that.
Alex wants to know what we had to eat in the food hall.
Oh, I had tres tacos al pastor, very, very good. Horchata was excellent.
Yeah. I had what they sold as a muffalata, and it was not excellent. It had mayonnaise on it, and mayonnaise doesn't belong in a muffalata. No mention of mayonnaise anywhere on the menu, by the way. But the food hall's awesome.
Yes.
And this is a really cool element. It's funny. I think there are more credentialed media in here right now than actual fans. Like, I'm looking at the ESPN crew behind you right now. They're eating. But there are some Atlanta United supporters here. This is just really great. For those of you who don't know where LAFC Stadium is, it's right off the campus of the University of Southern California. Directly across the street is the LA Coliseum, where the Rams and USC play. And there's not really a whole lot going on in this neighborhood, and when they built this stadium, they had a really good idea to construct this food hall, which is open daily. It's a little bit like Molly B's. It's open daily. You don't have to have an event, but on event days, they stay open later. And I'll take your endorsement for the tacos al pastor. And there's a lot to choose from here, and a lot of seating, and most importantly of all, it's air conditioned.
Yes, because we will not be in an air-conditioned booth tonight. So for those of you who are listening, you might hear a lot of crowd noise around us because we'll be not quite in the crowd, but we'll be right up against it.
I like it, though.
I do, too. I love that.
I embrace that. That's fine. As long as we can see the pitch, and
yes.
I guess we'll find out in a second when we go inside if we can.
Yes.
As long as we can see the pitch, I'm good with it. And that's another thing, too. And this is something that Taylor Twellman said in that thing he did with John Champion this morning. I think they were doing a little selfie mode film from their hotel. Taylor Twellman is right. Atlanta United has not been very good on the road this year.
No, not like they were last year.
That is absolutely a correct statement. They've won 3 matches on the road, at New England before they had Bruce Arena, at Kansas City when they had a bazillion people out, at Vancouver. That's it.
Yep.
And some of your losses on the road have been embarrassing. You've also been very, very close to getting some results lately on the road.
Yep.
A whisker away from getting a result at RSL, a whisker away from getting a result against Toronto. So they've been not good on the road, but they haven't been dreadful on the road either.
Last year, those losses were draws. You were getting results on the road, and then you got more wins.
Yeah.
This year, it's not there yet. It needs to be better on the road for sure.
100%. You're going to be on the road at some point in the postseason. Even if you were to get the number 1 overall seed in the East, unless you get a miracle in the West, you might have to come back here.
You might.
Or you might have to go to StubHub or whatever that's called now, Dignity Healthcare, whatever.
Yep.
Or go to Seattle if you even get that far. So you've got to prove to someone that you can get a quality win on the road. Atlanta United has 3 very good wins on the road. I think their best performance of the whole season might have been in Kansas City.
I would agree.
But you have to also consider the opponent.
Yeah.
That's why, again, man, you got a draw tonight. We're flying home right after the match anyway, but we'll sprint to the airport if we get there.
Yes, you are playing with house money if you pull that off. That's going to do it for us on the Q&A. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Like I said, we'll be on air at 9:30 on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app. I'll be on with Dukes and Bell here in about 10 minutes on 92.9 The Game. It is their 5th anniversary, which is very cool. Two guys who have supported this game and this team, from pre-day one, and it's been very cool to see some of you guys mention that to them, that you've got into their show because of how they talk about soccer. It doesn't happen everywhere. We're pretty lucky to have that type of support. So thanks for your support for us, and we'll be with you on 92.9 The Game in a few hours. Thanks, everybody. Much plot, y'all.